G'day, gang. I wanted to talk today about something that I am very much a fan of. But it's a pretty controversial issue, and I think it's something that a lot of people are really fed up with. But I think the reason that they're fed up is not because of the topic, it's because of how it's handled. I want to talk today about politics in entertainment. As a political fantasy author, I am very invested in this particular topic because I think when done correctly, I think it can be intensely resonating and very impactful, very meaningful, and create really, really important conversations that we might not have had otherwise. I think conversations about politics and about morality, which often people label as politics, when they are quite different topics. I think morality is a really important conversation. And I think that talking about your personal ethics and personal morals is just as important as talking about what you want from society and others and from policy, from government, politics. But I think, I think we shouldn't be, I think we should reframe the way that we see politics in entertainment. I think that we should very openly frame things as bad politics, and be more honest about what we don't want to see in entertainment space in terms of the way that politics are talked about. Because I think if you have a character who's very much against other characters in their morality, that is the perfect basis for conflict. And I think that a lot of people who have seen my diversity in entertainment video will see that I'm saying a lot of the similar things here in this video because these things aren't inherently bad. Having politics in gaming... Sorry, I thought my cat was in trouble. Having politics in gaming isn't, in entertainment rather, is not a negative, inherently negative thing. But having the way that we go about it is very bad. I specifically said, we can go about it is very bad. I specifically said gaming because recently there has been a trend to just make things so particularly uncomfortable in gaming. I don't entirely understand all the facets of where this had come from. I think I can see parts of it, and I can understand a lot of these different mechanisms, which I think would have to go into a whole other video, not just a little 10-minute rant. But I think politics are great. Morality is great. Ethics are awesome. Talking about these, having characters with difference in these values, in these desires and wants, having characters who are loudly oppositional of this stuff is awesome. Genuinely awesome. And I think that the way that you go about it is the only thing that matters. Genuinely is. Some of the best political works are so much fun. I mean, one of my personal favorites, A Song of Ice and Fire, is all about how people are governed and how people are able to be free and restricted. And I think same with another one of my favorites, Arcane. Oh my gosh, I love Arcane. And I love the fact that these characters each want difference in the way in which that they are governed and the way that they are able to be free. And they all have very strong opposing political views and moral views. They all have very, very different expectations of society. And it turns out to be, I think, one of the most enjoyable entertainment experiences I've had in many years. And these characters themselves are inherently very different from each other and very, very opposed to each other. And again, that's awesome. They honor their motivations, they stick to their motivations, and they just try to barrel through their world with the hopes and dreams that they have, which in many cases, most are unachievable, which is even better storytelling, in my humble opinion. I think characters with unachievable goals are, I think, like the peak of tragedy. It's yeah, especially when those goals aren't fulfilled. If the character doesn't fulfill those goals, it is particularly gut wrenching. And I think that the reason that those are so compelling and so enjoyable and resonating for us to watch is because a lot of us have unfulfilled political expectations or social expectations or ethics or morals or whatever massive spectrum of desire and hope that we have for ourselves, other people, and the way that we're governed. And I think those conversations, the best possible avenue to have those in, and the most safe way to have them, is through art, through entertainment. So I think that most people wouldn't disagree with that. I think these stories, like the original Star Wars, about these little rebels who are fighting for a world that they believe in that doesn't exist, those sorts of stories are really held in the hearts of many people, even still today, like decades later. Those sorts of stories don't go away because a lot of people have a vision of the world that doesn't exist. And when we stop hoping for those sorts of worlds, when we stop having those dreams, those expectations, I think then we're in a really, really sad place. So putting those politics, ethics, morals in entertainment, in art, I think is the best possible place for them. And it creates a really significant and important dialogue that comes along with it. And I think we should talk more about what we want. I think we shouldn't be told, no politics here, no politics over there, no politics here, everywhere, to have that statement stated and to have everything, morals, ethics, and expectations, and just little desires and the own things that we have that we want in ourselves, to be just shoved in this massive bloated bag that we call politics that largely doesn't apply, is demonstrably unhelpful. I don't think just labeling everything as politics will ever help anyone to understand, one, the views of others, and their own views too. If we can't talk about what we want from other people and ourselves, how are we ever going to figure out what we do and do not want? I think that in itself is why the conversation has largely been labelled politics and pushed under the table. Because to say to someone, I don't want to hear about politics, to reduce it like that, I think is a way in which that a lot of people do something that I've put another video about, is to avoid critical thinking and to avoid conflict. Two of the greatest ways in which that we can understand each other and ourselves better. I think those two lost art forms of critical thinking and conflict, we need to keep fighting to keep those topics available, to keep understanding what we want and what others want, and learn more about the world and other people and ourselves. I don't think it gets any more any easier than that. I think morality, ethics, and politics, and again, I'm going to keep separating them because they're very different. I am a completely non-political person. I don't vote in any country. I don't have any expectations of my government other than what they do. I'm very fortunate to live in a country with an awesome government, and the people here, Americans, don't panic. Australians, calm down. The people here enjoy their government for the most part. They even have days where they legitimately celebrate and adore certain members, such as King's Day. It's very big here in the Netherlands. But I think, we keep labeling all of this stuff as the same thing, and it's not. And I think that we should keep putting, and we need to not stop talking about what we want and what we want to see in a world. Because the moment that we stop dreaming, where does that leave us? Freaking monitor. Where does that leave us when we stop dreaming? Like, who are we if we don't have art and entertainment? What sort of people are we if we're not trying to look for a better world, or trying to push for something that we want? But to first do that, we have to understand what we want, what others want, and what works with other people. Because there are a lot of things that we may want that we can reasonably expect really can't be implemented. You know, we can't all live in mansions. As much as it would be awesome, it's just not possible. So there are things that we have to rein in expectations, and we have to negotiate, and we have to understand all of the pieces in play to do that. And to do that, oftentimes we have to have really hard conversations, and putting them in entertainment and art, these hard conversations, I think is one of the most available and open spaces to do that. And then it gives people this freedom to talk about the things that they've seen. Because if you talk about how the people in the lanes deserve to be free in Arcane, it is a completely different conversation as if you talk about the people in a specific country who you think deserve to be free. And I think that once you have those conversations painted as something else, and you talk about how you think that people should be free, full stop, I think you can do that through art. And I think that, again, as people, we need to forever be talking about what we want to see in our world, and we need to keep dreaming. And art and entertainment is just such a perfect place to have that, to see that dream. That's my opinion on it. Love to know what everybody else thinks. Genuinely want to hear from people in the comments. I'd love to see videos about people talking about their own views on this topic, because it is a pretty complicated one. And I think that this is only one angle of the many, many angles that come with this topic. And there are a lot more complications, and I realize that I'm seeing it from a very, very positive perspective when it's not necessarily a positive topic. So again, really love to hear from people, and thanks for listening to me talk at you. I appreciate it. Please talk back to me. Cheers.